And that's a wrap on the 2024-2025 season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They complete the full collapse by dropping the first round wild card game against the divisional foes and the Baltimore Ravens, 28-14, in another embarrassing performance, especially by, well, this time I think it was by both sides. Did you see this coming there, Shannon? Were you prepared for the loss in which the Steelers had?
Yes. I took a lot of flack for saying they were going to lose. I picked them to beat the Chiefs. It was the only game there to end. I thought they could win. I thought that the Chiefs were down some and that the Christmas magic, I was just hoping, it wasn't nothing rational. I was just hoping they could pull the upset at home. And, like the Immaculate Extension with, some things magical happen around the holidays. But no. I predicted my prediction was 34-17 on Pump Your Brakes last week, Ravens. And, it was, they didn't score that much and they didn't give up that much, but it was a thorough butt kicking. So,
yeah, the offense failed to cross midfield until the second half. I mean, that was embarrassing. The effort from the defensive side was subpar to the max. I mean, I think it's been reported here that Patrick Quinn was dealing with the flu or some sickness out there. Before the game, I had seen him talking. He did look a little bit, flush. But I mean, if it's impacting you that much, I mean, maybe let Peyton Wilson take over a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, the entire defense, either it affected them all, or I don't know what, because the effort was poor. I mean, there was a situation where a 5'10" receiver catches the ball with 8 yards to go and has Minkah Fitzpatrick bearing down on him and Dante Jackson over the top about 5 yards away from the first down. Right. So you had Dante Jackson 5 yards away from the first down. And you had this young receiver 8 yards away, and somehow he drags Minkah and pushes Dante Jackson and gets the first down. And the effort wasn't there. It was poor from every player. I think everybody could take a blame in this one. I myself didn't expect the tail beating that they got. I was expecting it to be a little bit closer. I was thinking maybe perhaps because the Steelers had more of their, starting lineup in the game versus the last time that they played the Baltimore Ravens, that would show up a little bit and there'd be more of a competitive game. But right off the bat, I mean, it was just the same old. And, to me, going into this game and looking at the injury report, I don't think injuries can be an excuse for this game that was lost. This isn't the first time that the Steelers have a collapse at the end of the year. And I'm starting to think, and have been thinking, that the reason behind that isn't because of injuries at the end of the year, as much as the Steelers don't change what they're doing and they're getting figured out by the end of the year. And so, when you get into the playoffs, everybody knows what you're going to do. You don't change it. You got maybe some stubborn people at the top. You're keeping the game plan what it is. And you end up with what we've had for the last 8 years. What are your thoughts on the collapse itself as a trend? Where do you think, or why do you think this keeps happening?
Well, I've been mentioning it more and more. We talked a little bit before the show started. I want us to take the next 6 weeks to break down what needs to happen for the Pittsburgh Steelers to truly be a great franchise again. And we can work up to the combine and then go from there. And I want the community participation, and everybody's opinions are welcome, whether I agree with them or not. But the only way to find change is to identify problems. And you first identify and admit there's a problem, and then you make changes. Where the Steelers are like an ostrich with their head in the sand. I believe that Art Rooney II, and Mike Tomlin is a toxic tandem. They're toxic together. they've got this old school mentality. All their schemes, their philosophies, their personnel usage, their talent evaluation, everything is antiquated. It is not up to modern day standards. So when you say the standard is the standard, well, the standard could be the problem. Now, you can't change owners. Hey, I'd trade Art the second if I could and get 2 first-round picks at him. Guess what? That don't work that way. Nobody wants him. If somebody's crazy enough to offer you anything for Mike Tomlin, you take it. Because they are playing 70s and 80s style football in a totally different era where the rules are all different. Everything's different. An example, a few years back, I've been writing articles about this forever when I was writing articles. I suggested they trade TJ Watt. And because there's no reason to have the highest paid player at any position unless they make you a contender. Now, an edge rusher cannot make you a contender if you don't have a quarterback and you don't have a running back and you don't have wide receivers and you don't have an offensive line. They are top heavy on defense. Salary pay is crazy. The payroll is skewed to the defense immensely. And they just don't even have enough talent on offense. But it goes deeper than that. They have the cheapest coaching staff. Tomlin makes the money, and everybody else they just put together yes men. Now, my background before, I was always in management of some sort. The best managers did not want to surround themselves with yes men. Because yes men will never look at you and say you're wrong. Tomlin is wrong very often, but nobody will say nothing to him. It's just they're yes men. And you need somebody to call you on your BS when you're wrong. And Tomlin is not a schematical coach. He's not a creative coach. He is a player's coach. He is a motivator. He is a father figure. He is all these things. He has a place. But he has to have great coordinators. He has to have great positional coaches to communicate, to keep that, he allows things to happen within the organization I've never seen before. And so there is so many issues that need to be addressed. That's why I want to do this over weeks. But I'm just pointing out there right now that just getting rid of one person or one player isn't fixing this. There's going to take rampant change and a new thought process and a new philosophy and a new standard before we're going to get off this merry-go-round of horror. Because I'm tired of it, guys. If you love the Steelers like I love the Steelers for all these years, you're sick and tired of this mediocrity. And so, but I think we got a purge. We've all seen the movie The Purge, I assume. The purge is coming, and it's going to start with all these free agents that we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, it definitely will. To go back to what you were saying about TJ Watt and this whole team, and I agree. I think that if you're going to have a player in the highest paid position and it be on any side of the ball, that you better be a contender. However, the Steelers without TJ Watt, their record isn't very good. I think they've had one game where they've won without him. So I do understand that. Yeah, maybe perhaps, allocating that amount of money to one player in one position when you don't have an answer on the other side at the quarterback position, that's valid. However,
but great teams are not overly dependent on one player.
No, I agree.
They are scheme based. They are creative, and they can overcome. I mean, the Detroit Lions lost
22.
What's his name? Adrian Hutchinson. I mean, that dude was going to maybe be Defensive Player of the Year. He was having a monster season. And they lost him, and they're still great because they're not dependent on one dude. The Steelers are overly dependent on their superstars because that's the Tomlin way. He waits He lets teams keep the ball for 13 play drives, 3 of them in that playoff game, because he expects a superstar to make a play. Well, guess what happens? When you get to the playoffs and you face better competition, or the last 4 games of the year, better competition, they don't let TJ beat you, or TJ's hurt. Well, they don't let Hayward beat you, or Highsmith. And guess what? Then you can't win. So, I mean, having TJ and not having TJ, what's been the difference? He's never won a playoff game. Now, I'm not blaming TJ Watt in any way, because as we'll talk about over these next few weeks, it's not the individual player's fault. It's the schemes. The schemes are limiting the greatness of these great players. And they're putting TJ in no-win situations. You are not going to consistently win when you're getting chipped by a running back going out, hit by the tight end, and then have 2 offensive linemen stopping you. I don't care who you are. You're not winning.
Yeah, he needs somebody else to come through for him. That way they can alleviate some of that pressure so he can apply his own.
Mm-hmm.
No, I get it. I mean, Mike Tomlin has been known to be the type of coach that, you're looking at, he's hoping that his checkers are better than the opposition's chess players. And it's, in today's day, that's not how it works anymore. And you're absolutely right when it comes to one player. But let's get into this. So, Jerry Dulac came out and did a post on X saying that the Pittsburgh Steelers do not plan on moving from Mike Tomlin. Now, planning not moving off from Mike Tomlin and will not move off from Mike Tomlin are 2 different things. Now, I do think that they probably won't move off from him. I think he's going to end up being the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the start of the 2025 season. But what do you think about the how do you take that? Do you think there's any chance that it's not going to be Mike Tomlin, or do you think this is set in stone?
I think if somebody offers you to trade for him, I think it's 2 first-round picks.
He does have a no trade clause, so he'd have to.
And I think if he wanted to go there, he can.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I think it would be good for him to get out and get an opportunity to prove himself, because he's already lost the luster's off of the pedals are off the rose, so to speak. The bloom is fallen. We don't buy it anymore. We don't believe in it anymore. I mean, he has got to be one of the most overrated coaches I can think of in any sport. Yes, I criticized Chuck Noll at the end because the game had passed him by, and I loved the guy, but it was time. Bill Cowher, he couldn't win until he got Ben, and then he was able to win. And you got to have the guy. I understand that. But when they drafted Ben, they already had the team built. They were missing one piece. This team ain't even close to one piece. There's nobody in the draft that you could draft last year, this year, next year that's going to turn this around. They need more than one piece. So they need to focus on what you can focus on. Finding the quarterback's the hardest thing to do. But they have to build and make a roster ready for a championship quarterback. But Tomlin inherited one. He went to 2 Super Bowls. Somebody said it the other day. Had they not been for the drive that Ben, after the defense give up the long touchdown to Larry Fitzgerald, I might add, had they not had Ben and San Antonio Holmes, they don't win that Super Bowl. And what would Tomlin's reputation be then? Would it be another Marty Schottenheimer?
Yeah.
What would Andy Reid have been if he hadn't went to Kansas City? Listen, sometimes a separation of divorce is good for both parties. If somebody's crazy enough to offer you 2 first-round picks, the Steelers, they ought to fire or take the team away from the Roonies if they don't take the deal. I don't think nobody's going to do that, as much as everybody thinks everybody wants it. So they have to start making changes within the coaching staff, getting coordinators that are not puppets to move forward and catch up in the modern century. Now, Tomlin has 2 more years on his deal, I think. Maybe 3. I don't know. I know they respect the man. They're not going to fire him. That's just not the Steeler way. But something has to change. maybe Tomlin will get to the point he's like, I don't want no more of this crap, and he'll walk away.
Yeah.
Cowher did after he won the Super Bowl, but he did it because of family health issues.
Correct.
I don't know what they is best for Tomlin, but I believe Tomlin's smart enough to know what's best for him. So maybe he'll decide, if they can't turn this thing around. But I'm telling you, changes have got to start now.
Yeah, I agree. And you can't deny that the success rate of Tomlin's teams has gone down. The further he gotten away from Bill Cowher's teams. Yep. And so, right off the bat, he won a Super Bowl within the second year, got to another one with the same players, basically, a couple of additions here and there. And then, the Steelers didn't win that game. And then, divisional games, championship games, and it's dwindled since then. And then in the last 8 years, they have not yet been able to win a playoff game. Steel Dog 88 comes in with a $5 super chat saying, if Tomlin stays in Pittsburgh, the home game crowd is going to become a hostile environment. Do you think that the fire Tomlin chants will be heard through the Acrisure Stadium come next season, home game, and the offense goes 3-and-out the first two series?
Well, we've seen what happened in the last few years to Matt Canada that got booed. Mason Rudolph got booed. I mean, when they start out the game, like if they did a outside pitch at the beginning of that game, even in Baltimore, you'd have heard booing for Pittsburgh. Yeah. Because everybody was like, hey, better not start out the game like that again. One thing about Steeler fans, we're passionate. We don't always agree, but Steeler fans, the majority of them know something. There's a lot of fans I talk to from other teams. They can't even tell me who's on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
But you talk to the majority of Steeler fans, they'll tell you who the third string outside linebacker or the third string safety or who's on special teams. They know, and they have high expectations. And everybody says they call that being spoiled. I think it's if your slogan is the standard is the standard, you better expect to have some spoiled fans. I don't call it spoiled. I think it's knowledgeable, and people are tired of this crap.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a standard that's held here in Pittsburgh. Tomlin has talked about that standard, and it hasn't been lived up to in the last while. I mean, we're getting close to 20 years since the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're at 20 years since the first time, or since Ben, and the Pittsburgh Steelers beat Seattle. In a couple more years, we'll be 20 years away from, the last time. It's getting a little bit long in the tooth there. But, they say that change is coming. But they had been saying that 3 weeks leading up to the end of the season, and I don't think I ever saw change. I think that game against the Baltimore Ravens, that first drive where they threw the ball a little bit more and got a first down on the first drive, I think that was the most change I had seen throughout the entire time. It was pretty poor.
Was it in a flea flicker?
There was a flea flicker
play on the first play of the second drive.
That may have been around that time. It was pretty early on in the game.
I'm like, listen, Arthur Smith said we're going to burn the boats. I'm saying, hey, get the players out first. Get the players out. Don't burn the boat with them in it. I'm like, my gosh. It's like, when you watch a quality game, last night I watched the Redskins and the Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
With Baker Mayfield and Daniels, the quarterback for the Commanders, and the effort put forth by both defenses. When's the last time, honestly, the Steelers defense has showed up for a playoff game? Now, I know the Steelers offense started out, especially under Ben, and made some mistakes in the beginning. But let me tell you a secret. When your defense can't stop nobody, you put extra pressure on yourself to score. And you're not settled, and you're not in your normal rhythm, and there's turnovers. But how many times did Ben have monster games in losses because the defense never stopped nobody? The defense quit showing up in the playoff games in about 2015 for the Steelers. And that's Tomlin's specialty. Yeah. He's supposed to be a defensive-minded coach. So, it's just, they are so outclassed and outcoached every playoffs. And like you said, through these late season collapses, I think it's like 6 years now that if you go back, you see these major collapses at the end of the year. Not last year, actually. When Rudolph came in, he helped get them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, most years they're pretty decent in a pretty good position, and then they collapse. And and this was the most disappointing. I don't know about you, but this is the most disappointing I've been in the Steelers in ages.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even going back to last year against Buffalo, I thought that game there was more heart in that game and more
Yeah.
of will than there was in this past game.
With
That game,
practice squad guys.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And Mason Rudolph, I mean, there was an opportunity there that game was going to be 14-7 when he threw that interception in the end zone. And, the other player just made a good play on that game.
Yeah.
He threw it right and
It
to the right
happens.
place.
It happens. But I mean, here's like you said earlier, no effort. I mean, that was tons. I've heard every excuse. And when I heard him talk about Patrick Queen had the flu, I mean, if you on the long Henry touchdown run, go back and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Queen was even with him and reaches out with his arm and like pats him on the bicep instead of diving or grabbing a hold and try to hang on so your teammates can help you. I know you're sick, but why even be out there if you're not going to try? Dante Jackson moved out of the way. There was 2 plays in that game that I thought Patrick Queen was Devin Bush because he kind of floated to the side and got out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it was a very, very low effort game. And I think it's been pointed out by a lot of folks. I mean, even on Twitter and everywhere else, now that the all 22, I think, is out, or at least out for some folks, you're seeing people dissect some of these defensive plays and how there was a lack of effort, the lack of want to try to tackle. I mean, even the announcers were bringing it up. Like, this wasn't a Pittsburgh Steelers game. But to your point about how the teams start, I think the first quarter for the last like 5 playoff games, the Steelers are outscored like 70-something to 0. It is crazy how bad they've just dropped the ball in the first quarter, both offensively and defensively, over the past 8 years. The times that they've been able to go into the playoffs. I don't understand where's the change there, but there's gonna be some scapegoats. Now, there's Arthur Smith, who, surprisingly to me, he's getting calls for head coaching jobs. I'm surprised by that. I'll be honest with you. I hope he gets one. I hope he gets one. But I'm surprised by it. But how confident are you in Arthur Smith and maybe year 2?
Well, we've changed coordinators. Not on defense, really, because we just went from LeBeau to Butler to Austin because we're just, it's Tomlin's defense. Come on, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But on offense, we went from Fitchner to Canada to Smith. And now I truly believe that Matt Canada was the most incompetent offensive coordinator I've ever witnessed in any professional level. But Arthur Smith I don't think it's his own limitations. I think it's his philosophy, and that's why Tomlin hired him, is he's old school, and he wants to do heavy rush, play action off the rush. It fit right into what Tomlin wanted. This week, Tomlin said that the reason they stuck to the game plan that they did, even though it wasn't working against the Bengals, is because you want to keep the Bengals offense off the field. So you want to establish the running game. And you don't want to give up on it too soon, even though it was late in the third quarter before they did. But that it's safer to run the ball. And, see, that goes back to that mentality we talk about all the time with him. Protect the ball security. Keep it close, win in the end. Let your superstars win it for you. That is not going to work anymore. It's not the way it's done in the modern era. It just isn't. Like I said about the highest paid player, It can't be a defensive guy if you don't have talent on offense. It's okay to pay your quarterback because you got all the rules are in place to protect the quarterback. Every rule is to protect the quarterback. You got 5 guys, monster guys on your offensive line that you pay tons of money to with one purpose is to protect the quarterback. See, nobody else on offense or defense has that luxury. And the Steelers, all their highest paid players are on defense. So when you step back and you just look at it, you immediately see a problem.
Mm.
But I think that Arthur Smith is nowhere near the biggest problem. But the problem is him and Austin and a lot of these other guys are just yes men to the problem. And we'll leave it there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, when you've changed so many offensive coordinators and the product looks the same, what's the common denominator there? Defensively, you're right. That's Mike Tomlin's show. It's him running the defense. So when it comes to the so-called change that people are expecting to see, I don't think it's going to be from any of the upper tier coaches. I mean, you're looking at your offensive, defense coordinator, special teams coach, and head coach. Those are going to be the same. So who's the scapegoat? When we look at the offensive side, I mean, we're probably looking at maybe Eddie Faulkner, Pat Meyer. He's the offensive lines coach. I think a lot of people have been ready to move on from Pat Meyer for a while. And I think maybe even Mike Sullivan might be some guys that those 3 guys might be the guys that people that end up getting targeted out here. Mike Sullivan and the other person that I mentioned, they oh God, what was his name? Eddie Faulkner. There we go. They were part of the Matt Canada, team or whatnot out of that regime. So I think they're going to be phased out pretty soon. But definitely Pat Meyer. I think he's going to be one of the scapegoats here. You have a lot of top talent there on the offensive line, across the board. This year was supposed to be Broderick Jones on the left side. It was Dan Moore. But Broderick Jones hasn't looked like a first-round quality player. Zach Frazier looked good. He's done well. But the interior as a whole has been a weak point. Isaac Seumalo, a proven commodity coming out of Philadelphia, didn't really play so well this year either. Mm-hmm. Who do you think will be standing or who do you think won't be standing when the dust settles on the offensive side of the coaching staff?
Well, Pat Meyer, again, here's another opportunity. The Steelers bring in an offensive line coach who loves zone blocking and outside zone. You bring in an offensive coordinator who likes to run play action and outside zone. Your running back does not fit outside zone. Your talent has to fit your schemes, or you get a scheme that fits your talent. But they didn't either. They're like, we're going to take this, we're going to do that. That had been like when the Jets had Chad Pennington and they wanted to run a deep downfield passing game. It wasn't going to happen because he didn't have the arm to do it. Or Terry Bradshaw and wanted him to throw a lot of West Coast offense like Joe Montana. Bradshaw had the arm, he didn't have the accuracy. They have to go together.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that, Meyer, we seen Munchak, and we seen him take undrafted free agent guys, former tight ends that were in the Army, guys that, and he made them into a top 3 offensive line in the NFL. But they were on the same page. They communicated. It was just, there was a certain level of understanding and intelligence. You don't see that. There was one play where they had Dan Moore early in the game coming to the right and Jones coming to the left, trying to pick off outside rushers, and then they tried to run the ball with Warren into the A gap on the right, and he got hit in the backfield. I mean, the combination don't go together. It was almost like we're going to trick them. And all they did was fool themselves. They look like idiots. I've not seen that blocking. I really haven't never seen it. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Especially when neither guy is playing well. And Jones has got a bad habit at 6, whatever he is, 300 some pounds, is he'll run and never hit nothing. He just, he hits something, and just, at the end of the play, he's just standing up, and he never really hit anything. And Moore just got worse and worse. He was just what we said he was all along. He's mediocre. So I think you're going to have Fautanu. Hopefully he's an answer next year. You got Frazier. I think Frazier's the best young center in football. I have a Frazier jersey that my buddy Matty P got me for Christmas. Nice. I won't wear it because I didn't want to jinx it. Well, if they were in a 5-game losing streak. But I think Frazier's going to be a star. So you got the foundation to build there. But Samalu, he fell off this year. He really did. McCormick is not, I love his effort, but he's not a good zone blocker. So what do you do, Daniel? You have to get a coach who coaches a scheme that your talent can execute, right?
Yes.
They have to be able to execute it. And just like when they had Kevin Dotson, they wouldn't let him go back to the right side. That's all he needed. But they'd rather let him go to the Rams to be an all-pro. So the stubbornness of the problem, and I'm going to start calling him the problem. I ain't going to mention his name. But the stubbornness of the problem is what's causing all this. Because now he's on there right now in a playoff game, and the dude's an all-pro.
Yeah.
Kevin Dotson wasn't the problem. Stubbornness was like, we're going to put you on the left side, and you're going to play there. We don't care if you like it or not.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, there's not just him. Kevin Green had a small stint, pun intended, on his height, but a small stint with the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Where he looked pretty good. I mean, some injuries has kind of derailed his career there, but they put him in a guard position, and he was doing fairly well. A lot better than when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you look at the talent, and I know some people are saying that Broderick Jones is a bust, but they've also taken him from the side that he normally is on, and they put him on the opposite side. And they're doing the same thing with Fautanu when he comes back. They wanted to throw him as the right tackle. Now, I'm not certain if they're going to trust Dan Moore when he comes back. I think maybe they're going to trust Dan Moore more on the right side and let Fautanu stay on the left side where he was at in college. I mean, there's that possibility. Or maybe, if Broderick Jones goes back to the left side, that could be a game changer for him.
We cannot judge or properly evaluate. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. Broderick Jones, until we see him on the left side. We seen him one game on the left side, and it was his best game of his rookie year. Just like we see Kevin Dotson play right guard for 4 games when DeCastro was out? Yeah. DeCastro comes back and they moved him. Those 4 games was the best Kevin Dotson ever played for the Steelers. Mm-hmm. You think, a light bulb would go off somewhere in the problem's head, and he'd be like, let's put him back over there. But no, stubbornness it's unbelievable. I mean, I thought I was stubborn. I give that guy credit. He's got me beat every day. Yeah. Because that stubbornness is causing these problems within the organization.
I agree. On the defensive side, I think that the scapegoats here is going to fall on Grady Brown, the secondary coach. The secondary has been atrocious, for the last month and 5-6 weeks. Even going back to the game where they beat the Bengals 44-38, they allowed a lot of yards and points through the air. I think Grady Brown's probably going to take the heat there. And if I had to guess another coach that's probably taking the heat, I'm going to go ahead and say that maybe even Carl Dunbar, defensive line coach. When Cam's not in there, it's a problem up the middle of the defensive line. And
I say about the defensive line all year, they need big boys. They need beef. When you watch the teams yesterday, you watch the game tonight, there's beef inside. They've got Benton playing out of position. Cam doesn't like it on the interior. Ogunjobi is just average at best. He should be a backup. He has no power. He has quickness, but he has no power. Look at the Ravens interior line. You got to have at least one big boy and one penetrator on the inside that can tie up and fill up lanes. Teams run the ball right up the middle on the Steelers all the time. Look at Henry's long touchdown run. I mean, because they get to the linebacker so easily.
Hmm.
The Steelers need more beef inside. So either you go 4-3 or you stick with the 3-4, but you need a Casey Hampton. You need a Wolford. You need a big body, a guy who could clog up the middle and collapse the pocket. He don't have to be a great pass rusher, but at least collapse the pocket so that the quarterback can't scramble up the middle constantly like happens to the Steelers. And it just the stubbornness. They say they want 6'5", 300 pounds. Well, that's not an interior lineman in the NFL anymore. The interior linemen are 330 and bigger.
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, I see that those guys would be probably targets for the chopping block, so to speak, when it comes to the defensive side. What are your thoughts on Aaron Curry? You know, the middle linebacker. Patrick Queen didn't really, in my opinion, he wasn't what, a $14 million middle linebacker is.
Not even close.
Yeah, and Peyton Wilson, I mean, he started off really good. Rookie wall, maybe that has something to do with it, but he kind of flamed out a little bit towards the end of the season. Didn't really hear much about him. He wasn't making those splash plays anymore. After the game against probably the Ravens when he had the interception. After that, he kind of just quieted out a little bit. Claude Bishop comes in with a $5 super chat saying 1 year from today, we'll be talking about the same old thing. I guarantee it. And he and his whole coaching staff should have been fired yesterday. Don't disagree with you, my man. Don't disagree with you.
Well, they've already come out and said that they don't plan on making any changes from Tomlin.
Yeah.
Which is disastrous in my opinion. I'm definitely not happy about it. So you hope the purge of free agents we're going to talk about and the changes that need to happen from the coordinators and the coaching staff with another influx of talent will be enough to overcome it. But I'm sorry, I still think the problem is the antiquated philosophy of the owner and the head coach. And I'm afraid till that changes, nothing's going to change. I hate to say that because I love the Steelers so much, but I'm tired of it. People, I'm beyond tired of it. I dreaded watching the games. I was so excited about a playoff game, Daniel. I couldn't wait for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't wait for that game to be over. I really couldn't. Yeah. I just couldn't wait because I don't want to talk about that team anymore. But Patrick Queen, I mean, he was never a green dot. The moment they signed him, I said, I don't know what you're going to do, but he's not a green dot. Everybody knows it that watches my podcast. He's not a green dot. He's not a green dot. Guess what? Tomlin says he's a green dot. So guess who had the green dot all year? Patrick Queen. Guess who played like crap? Just like he did when he was with the Ravens, and he was the green dot. People forget. They brought in Smith. Smith took care of all the dirty work. Smith did all that, and they just let Queen run around. He's a good athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But when you asked him to be the meat and potatoes, the backbone of your defense, he can't do it. But guess what, Mr. Stubborn, the problem, did? He's going to be the green dot all year, and we're going to go down in flames.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. In the end, I think that the biggest change, because I'm not sure that those changes are going to happen, but I do know that there's going to be a huge change. And in the end, I think that's going to be Phil Matthews, the head strength and conditioning coach, and his staff are probably going to be gone. And that'll probably be the biggest change we see this offseason in this coaching staff.
I think the water boys and the towel boys are people. They could be people. I don't know if they're all men, but I think they're all in danger.
Yes.
Because I think the Rooney's are going to clear house and get rid of them water boys. And then we're going to see some real change in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's the biggest change that's going to be made. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the free agents of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's going to stay, who's going to go. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Yeah, and we're back. Welcome back to the Hangover. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Shannon White, as always. Before we get back into the conversation, I as always want to remind you guys of our website, stillcurrentnetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Go check it out. And while you're there, you can check out our audio-only podcast. You can catch my very wrong prediction of the Pittsburgh Steelers-Ravens game that aired out this past Saturday, or this upcoming Saturday, the State of the Steelers episode will air out at about 11 a.m. Eastern time. So there's a lot of free agents in a lot of key places that is going down this offseason. None more important than the quarterback position. Now, all three of the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks are free agents. Do you expect any of them to return?
Well, you want to do it this way? I'd like to do it because there's not that many that we could go down the list.
Okay.
We can start with the quarterbacks, but let's go down the list and give our opinion whether we should sign them or not.
All right.
And then I'd like the community to bring their opinion in, and let's see, because I'll tell you right now, there's precious few that I want back.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so starting out with the quarterbacks, as you said, all three.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson, no.
Russell Wilson, if you would have asked me 6 games ago, I would have been all for it, but this entire collapse that we have seen, it's not necessarily 100% on him. However, a big component of why the offense wasn't successful is because teams were able to scheme against what he does. And, and that was basically taking away the deep shot and making sure anything underneath wasn't open. They were leaving the middle wide open, the intermediate area, because he doesn't throw there, whether it be because he doesn't see it or he doesn't want to, or he can't make those throws. Maybe perhaps when he tries to throw over the lineman, the footballs get batted down.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the case may be, he don't throw over the middle. And I think that was a huge component as to why the Steelers started to collapse. And I'll be honest, I think he holds on to the ball a little too long.
Yes.
I don't like it. So why do you not want him back?
Okay. He's short. He's old. He doesn't like play action, and he refuses to throw across the middle. And now, listen, I am in no way blaming Russell Wilson for everything. It's a terrible offensive scheme being run by the problem. But he is not the answer. If you look at these quarterbacks, Allen, Daniels, Jackson, all of them, they all can move. And Wilson can't anymore. And the ones who are not great movement guys, Darnold and like Stafford tonight, they've got great schemes and good coaches. So great receivers. So Steelers don't have either. So Wilson ain't the answer.
Let me know. Let us know in the live chat if you would keep Wilson. We have Brother Man to you. Comes on the $5 super chat, says, "Call me crazy or off, but keep Tomlin one more year." I'm sure Tomlin will probably be the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the next 3 years, as his extension was signed earlier this year.
I say no. I would say trade him in a heartbeat. If anybody will give you that, what it will take to get him, trade him. I mean, please, God, trade him. But I don't think they will. So, who's that? Tad Myers?
Tad Myers comes on the $9.99 super chat, says, "How overrated is Muth? He's soft as butter, can't block a lick, and is by far worst tight end in the division. Drop passes first play of the game and can't get 2 inches in the flat. Come on, man, soft. I will say that he's also had a couple of fumbles in recent weeks and during certain times. Last week or against the what was it, the Bengals, he had the big drop, to end the game. I'm a little bit concerned about Muth. What are your opinions on Muth?
When they drafted Harris and they did not draft Creed Humphrey, I was pissed. When they drafted Freiermuth instead of Creed Humphrey, I was livid. Pat Freiermuth, I love the kid, but he is an overgrown wide receiver. He does not have power. So he runs like a tight end, but he's in a receiver's like body. Heath Miller, he's not. But I thought the one thing I could count on with that boy, that he had good hands, and he dropped 2 big passes, 2 passes in a row. The end of the game against the Bengals and the first pass of the playoff game, and it was a bad omen. So I'm down on him right now. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am too. I hope he turns it around because I had some big hopes for Pat Freiermuth. I thought he was going to be the next, Kittle or Kelsey. One of those.
We hoped.
The tight end was going to be able to pull in a lot of passes. I think his blocking wasn't, really what anybody would have thought of as great. We've all seen the plays where he's literally laid down on the floor.
He's not even adequate.
Yeah, and that might be reasons why he's not on the field very often. That was a big question about why are we seeing Michael Pruitt, why are we seeing these other tight ends and not Pat Freiermuth in these situations? There may have been a reason to that.
Did you read Brother Man's?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
He comes in to say, hate to say this, but keep Justin 1 year and cut Russ. Well, Justin Fields is the next player that we were going to talk about. Would you keep Justin Fields for 1 more year?
Yes. I would have liked to have seen what happened had they have kept him in there. I bought into it. I got excited when the offense started looking like, they could move the ball and throw it with Wilson and everything. But again, that's Pat. That is Mike Tomlin's philosophy, and that's where he makes hay against other mediocre average teams. And then when he goes up against the big boys of the NFL, they're not competitive ever. Never, never, ever. So I still would like to see Wilson, give him a chance to try to carry the load next year until they can bring in another guy, maybe draft somebody, or wait to see what becomes available as a free agent. But I'm not ready to give up on Fields yet. Because if you watch how Daniels plays, I'm not talking about Lamar Jackson, because Lamar is a freak. But if you watch Daniels, he's similar. And Daniels is a very good young player. But he's in an offense that suits him. They were trying to put Fields in an offense that didn't suit him. If they would bring Fields back, know it right now, sign him, and start building and putting talent around him that more fits him, I think he could have some success next
year. I would keep Fields over Russ as well. That was my choice, my options. I would definitely keep Fields. There was this one play that's been circulating, and I know it was like one play, but he showed flashes. It was early on in the season. I think it was against Denver, where he's rolling out and he got called back, but it was like while on the run, throws just a perfect strike to George Pickens, and he catches it. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. The connection between those two looked like it was, coming on. I do know that his touchdowns, through the air weren't that high, but he just came from Chicago, where he's gone through a whole mess of problems with that organization. It's going to take more than a couple of months, which is all it's been that he's been part of the Steelers organization. It hasn't even been a full year.
You think about it, Daniel. You tell me that Fields can't do what Justin Hurts does or Jalen Hurts does in Philly. I'm telling you, he's more talented than Jalen Hurts and has a better arm. He don't have the receivers. He don't have the running back. He don't have the offensive line. But he can run that offense.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing he really needs to work on, in my opinion, is just putting a little bit of air. I mean, maybe the processing to a certain extent, but there were some times where he had some people open, but he just kind of threw the ball in there a little bit harder than you would like. Russell Wilson, when he throws that deep ball, it just kind of floats a little bit. It's a lot easier of a ball to catch and get under. But let him work with the team a full off season again. Get him in there. This will be his second year. He's very young. He's 26 years old. I wouldn't give up on him.
What would you say about I doubt he'll sign for less than 2 years. But let's say 3 years, 25 mil.
A year?
Yeah. They're saying Wilson is going to warrant 35 to 40. What they were saying when he was doing good. But I think that you might get Fields substantially cheaper. He might even do a 1 or 2 year deal.
Isn't that what Sam Darnold is making?
Yeah, but he's going to make more though after this.
Oh yeah. He's going to make more, but Sam Darnold going into Minnesota was probably what people could would see as far as the talent wise goes and what they have done in the league at that point. Probably very comparable to what Justin Fields has done. So I could see that being an option. I think that is going to have to be front loaded as far as the guarantees. If the guarantees are, the first year fully guaranteed, and then they got an out, maybe second, especially the third year. I think then that'll probably work.
Cam Hayward's contract.
Exactly. I think if they get a Hayward contract, I think that would work. And you're not throwing him completely the keys of the Ferrari, so to speak, right? Because you're leaving yourself an opportunity to move forward, whether it be in the draft this year or next year. I'm really thinking that it's going to be next draft that the Steelers are going to end up looking out for quarterback. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it's a Manning. I'm hoping Archie Manning. We'll see. But I'm hoping Manning comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026. It would be perfect. I mean, the Steelers are going to be hosting the draft there in Pittsburgh for that year. I mean, I think it would be the amazing thing to see. Get them a first round franchise quarterback in the draft. And I think one of the biggest clues is going to be if they keep Kyle Allen. This is the third quarterback on the team. You're going to need a backup, regardless if you give, Justin Fields the pole position. You're going to need a backup. And I think having somebody that's been on the offense for a little bit probably benefits you a little. I know they're not necessarily very similar as far as their style goes between Justin Fields and Kyle Allen, but having that more traditional drop back style quarterback as a backup isn't going to hurt either. I mean, that's kind of what Mason Rudolph was, and he did well when he was asked to come into the game. So I think that's going to be a huge tell.
It sounds like we agree on the quarterbacks, because I agree Kyle Allen needs to come back. He's reliable. He's accurate. He knows his limitations. He knows his place. That's a perfect backup quarterback.
Yes, sir. All right. I'm getting told that Sam Darnold's making $10 million a year. If that's the case, then I would be more comfortable with 15 to 16 for Fields.
Yeah, if he'll take it, I agree. Yeah.
All right, let's look at the running back position. Now we have Najee Harris, who's an unrestricted free agent, and then we have a Jaylen Warren, who is a restricted free agent. We'll start off with Najee. He's staying. He's going. Where do you see him at?
Bye.
Yeah,
he don't fit. Too. He don't fit. He just don't fit. I mean, I love his effort, how hard but he cannot run lateral. He cannot run outside. And it's going to take a while to get this line to where they can run consistently, to where you can get a guy outside. The problem is he'll never be that guy. He don't have the foot speed. So it's over.
Yeah, I agree. And then with I think it's over. There's a possibility he comes back if he takes a Terrell Edmonds deal. They didn't sign his 5th year option back when it was up, and he went out into the free agency world, didn't get anything, came back for $2 million for 1 year. I think that's a possibility with Najee Harris, but there's a
For the
reason
cheap,
why.
yes.
Yeah, there's a reason why they didn't do the fifth-year option for him. Now, I think Jaylen Warren is a no-brainer. He's got to be back. Even if he's there's a lot of running backs in the draft. Apparently,
Yes.
this is going to be coming out,
Mhm.
and even if he's still that second back, and you get somebody who's very talented in the draft, a second or third round pick that's just out of this world. I think he needs to be back regardless. His ability to protect, especially on third downs, and what he can do with the ball in his hands, and his catching ability, it's needed. I see him getting an extension. What do you think about Jaylen?
His talent, his effort, his desire is no question. This is a great draft for running backs. You bring in a guy to back him up. You still go too deep. Jaylen Warren, they have to, make him a fair offer.
Mm-hmm. All righty, let's now look at some wide receivers. The first one.
Now, what about Cordell Patterson? Is he considered a running back?
Let me see if they put him in here as a. I don't even think they have him marked here on this list that I'm looking at.
Well, he needs to be gone regardless. if he needs to be gone, cut him, whatever, but he has to be gone. But let's go to the next one.
All righty, wide receiver Van Jefferson.
No, bye.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think a lot of people won't. It's nothing about it. Nothing bad against the player. He's just, I think, lost a step. He's not who he was before, and he doesn't get it. He's had some moments where he's gotten open, and they gotten the ball to him, and the opposing players have closed in on him pretty quick. So
he's a borderline NFL receiver.
Yeah.
So that means sometimes he's under the line, and in a lot of ways, he was under the line for the Steelers. So he's got to go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, this one's going to be interesting. What about Mike Williams, wide receiver?
I don't want him.
You don't like Mike Williams?
No, he gets hurt all the time. He didn't play enough for the Steelers to get hurt. But I'm telling you, if you try to use him often, he gets hurt.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw out of him. He caught almost everything he got thrown at. Some really high contested passes. I would have liked to have seen more of him. But I agree. It would have to be something that's team friendly.
And he's a go guy. I mean, he's a deep down the field guy. He's not a guy that works open. He don't get good separation underneath. He doesn't fit what I think the Steelers need to put in that receiving room. So I'd say let him go unless he's incredibly cheap or something.
Yes, sir. All right, we're going to move to the offensive line. We're going to start off with, this is an exclusive rights free agent. I think he'll end up staying on the team. Ryan McCullum. He did some fill-in job as center position for Frazier. I thought he did an excellent job. I would keep him.
Good backup center. Yes, I would keep him.
All right. I think we're going to know the answer to this one. James Daniels. Is he going to be back in the Pittsburgh Steel uniform?
I like James Daniels a lot. He was the best Steelers offensive lineman the previous 2 years. I think that Frazier's the best now, but I'm afraid somebody's going to throw too much money at Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
If they could sign Daniels at a reasonable deal, I would consider it, but I'm afraid he'll cost too much.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't sound like, even when the season started, that they were going to be doing much of an effort to making any contract extensions or talks with him. So it sounded like he was out the door. What about this? 1 second. What about we have a super chat from Brother Man. Would you trade Najee for Ezekiel? So I think both of them are going to end up being free agents. If Ezekiel Elliott is on the market, would you pick him up?
HE double hockey sticks, no.
That's the same answer for myself. I would not. I would not touch that man for the 10-foot pole. All righty. And let's see. What about offensive guard Nate Herbig?
No.
You bring, I think that in what we saw, I think he was okay. He got hurt. I think he may end up coming back because I think he'll be cheap. He's also an Andy Weidel guy. Andy Weidel likes him, so I think there's an opportunity that he'll make. That he may get a 1-year deal. Maybe a 2-year.
Did you watch how good Spencer Anderson looked filling in for McCormick? Actually, he looked better. He looked better, I guess, next to Frazier than McCormick did in the last few weeks.
Interesting.
I think Spencer Anderson, there's even a chance he might start on the at guard next year.
Maybe. I mean, he is a person that can play at a different places on the offensive line. If it's not at the right guard position, maybe even at the left guard, if Sayamalu is a guy that ends up not coming back.
Yeah.
And so, all righty. So now let's talk. We're going to go to the offensive tackle, Dan Moore. You see him coming back. At one point, he was being spoken of as the most consistent offensive lineman on this offensive line.
Not by me. I just liked him all year. One of our dear friends, and somebody I think wrote of Afton, was like, but Dan Moore ain't been too bad. Dan Moore's really been to, and I'm like, I hate to say it because I know that she likes him. I can't stand him. I want him gone. I didn't want him anywhere on the Steelers this year, but they had to have him all year with the injury to Fontana. But no, Dan Moore, please go somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't see him coming back either. I think his time is done. I think when you have Fontana coming back and you have Broderick Jones, you've invested what you did. You even traded up, with the New England Patriots to get Broderick Jones. You're going to try to get your full investment worth on that player. And I think he deserves an opportunity with a different offensive line coach. If one ends up being what happens, which I hope it is.
I gotta laugh at that one.
Oh man, watch Dan Moore leave and become a.
No, I need the one. I hit the wrong one. Oh, here it is.
Oh, there okay. It is. Dan Moore has a great career ahead of him as a saloon door.
I don't even think he gives that much resistance.
Maybe so.
That was great. I loved it.
All righty. So we have.
I'm trying to take it off. Okay.
Isaiah Loudermilk. Do you think he's coming back?
Craziest thing to say is maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched when they were getting killed, the last 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who was really fighting the whole time? Isaiah freaking Loudermilk. He was fighting in there. He made some one-on-one tackles, bringing down Henry in them last 2 games against the Ravens. He was the only guy who could do it. Besides Hayward, of course. Yeah. But if Benton got a hold of him, he got away. But Loudermilk, that's why that at the end of the year, 2 of the defensive linemen weren't dressing. They were inactives. Meyer and then another guy. I can't think of who it is now. But you'd watch Adams. Adams is a waste of space. Montravius Adams, that guy's a waste of space. You bring in Loudermilk, he at least tied up some people and made a tackle or 2. So he might actually be back.
I think he might. I mean, he's also gotten his hands or his paws on a blocked field goal attempt or 2.
Yeah.
And so I think his special teams and, the depth of the defensive line, I think he ends up being back. The next one's going to be Elandon Roberts, inside linebacker. You think he's coming back?
Love the guy. He has some weaknesses. He has limitations. But I love his effort. I love how he hits somebody on every play. So he says he wants to come back. And if the price is right, I say they bring him back.
Yeah, I agree with you. If the price is right, they may bring him back. I think if Cole Holcomb, I think he has 1 more year in his contract.
Mm-hmm.
He came back to practice. I don't know what kind of player he's going to be. Nick Chubb went through a very similar injury, and he's back playing at a very high level. And so I think that might have a thing, or at least a competition there. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers end up picking up another linebacker somewhere in the draft. Let's see.
Yeah.
Brother Man comes in with another $2 super chat. Steelers offensive line is trash and needs a rebuild.
And a new coach and a new philosophy, but I do agree. Yes.
I would want to see the new coach and philosophy in place, especially with, Zach Frazier, Broderick Jones. I know he's not doing well, but I think that he can very well will be like the next Kevin Dotson, where in the right situation with the right development, he can actually be pretty good.
And a Tanu. You got pieces you can build around.
Yeah, 100%.
I like Spencer Anderson. There's, but they've got to they need the coach with the new philosophy in place before the draft.
Yes, sir. All righty. What about Tyler Medikevich, Dirty Red? He's a free agent. Do you see him back in the black and gold?
No. He offers nothing, and you're going to get younger and more athletic as a unit, and he's not necessary.
Yeah, I agree with you. What about cornerback Dante Jackson? Had 5 interceptions this year. Where do you think he falls?
There was a tweet today said the Steelers are talking to him about wanting him to come back. They wasn't watching the effort level I saw Saturday. I was not happy with him. Why they didn't dress Corey Trice blows my mind. Corey Trice is the best tackler not named Elliott in the Steelers secondary. Trice is a very physical tackler. And they didn't even dress him. Dante Jackson couldn't tackle Calvin Austin. He is so weak. And they didn't dress Trice, which I thought was crazy. I don't want to see Dante Jackson as quarterback 2 next year. So I hope they don't bring him back.
He did have a pretty bad back injury, but and that held him out of a couple of games. And I think maybe that have been maybe that's the reason why he was making some business decisions there during the game. But you're right. I think he probably, if he was going to be doing that and wasn't going to be at his best, you probably have somebody else out there that's going to be able to make those tackles and be up there. I do think he's going to end up being back just because of the 5 interceptions, the production that he did have when he was healthy. I wouldn't be surprised, but I do want to see a bigger, larger role from Corey Trice. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a position that is targeted in the draft as well, maybe 3rd round or higher.
Or higher, yes.
All right. So the next cornerback is Cam Sutton. I don't think so.
Oh, please, God, no. Go away. I don't want to ever see Sutton on the field again.
Yes, sir. And then DeMonte KZ, safety.
They got to be able to do better than KZ. I mean, here's the thing. Who's the young man that got hurt in the preseason right at the end? Out of Texas. I can't think of his name.
Gosh. No, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, man. Big guy, too. He ended up hurting his neck, I think.
He's going to be a safety. Let's see what he can do next year.
Yes, sir. I haven't heard much about him.
Watts.
There he goes.
There you go.
Thank you,
Robert.
Thank you, Afton. Watts. He was the guy that was the safety. I think you're right. Somebody younger, somebody that can contribute also to like the special teams and stuff like that. I think would probably be somebody that you'd be more interested in. And the last player, this is a big one. This is an exclusive rights free agent, Jeremiah Moon. Will he be returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I like Moon. I like him as edge depth. He's really good on special teams. And I think he brings a good attitude. I've seen a lot of effort out of him. If they draft somebody, to really challenge him, it might, put some pressure on him. But I can see that going either way.
Yeah, I think he'll probably be signed. He'll probably be there during Latrobe. but how far after that, we'll see. And again, it depends on what the Steelers do in the draft and things of that nature, and also in free agency. But I think that he'll end up getting one of these contracts, at least to go into training camp, and we'll see where he goes from there. But yeah, free agency, that's going to be a big one. I think there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be making it back to the team here. A few that will. I know Russell Wilson has been talking out there saying that he does want to come back. We'll see if that ends up happening. But we'll have to stay tuned.
By my count, we had 4 guys that we definitely wanted back.
Yeah.
And the rest of them can be purged.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And one of them was a backup quarterback to the other quarterback that we wanted to stay also. So, yeah, no doubt. The Steelers need to get better. They need to make some decisions. They have some decisions to make when it comes to the free agency that'll be happening. How long into it do you think it'll be before we start hearing of some of these players getting re-signed? When do you think that's going to start?
The Steelers are usually they take a little break, so I'm expecting a few weeks, and then we'll start hearing some rumors. But right now, I think they got to go back to the drawing board. They need to figure out what they're going to do about the coaches first.
Yeah, coaches, and then the news about Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Who's staying? Who's going? The biggest shocker for me, honestly, would be if none of them end up coming back. I think a complete house cleaning would be a surprise to me when it comes to the quarterback position. Well, that's all we got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the program. Please hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Shannon, do you have any final words before we let everybody out?
Just stick with us these next few weeks. I love the audience participation, and we'll share a lot of opinions and try to look at the bright side of actually finally starting to move forward as an organization where there'll be brighter days ahead. And I appreciate everybody.
Yes, we appreciate you guys. Hope you guys still have a happy rest of the new year. It's already 1 month's already halfway done. Man, it's going by fast already. Well, with that being said, Shannon, take us out, my man.